Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Odyssey House Journals. We claim to be a rather raw, honest podcast dealing with addiction and recovery. Although because we're on an AM radio station as well as our podcast platforms, we try to keep the rawness down to a minimum. So no F words, okay?
Okay. I'll do my best.
I'm Randall Carlisle. My co-host is Nicole Slack. Hello again.
Hi.
You look sort of like the last time I saw you.
No, I still haven't washed my hair.
She doesn't wash her hair, wears a hat, and I've worn the same outfit for 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
So, you know,
It's
it's
a good
getting
job we're at
rather
Odyssey.
stinky in here. So our guest is Lacey. Can you smell us, or are
No.
we okay?
Y'all are good.
Yeah.
You're good.
Do you want to you asked Lacey to be a guest? Do you want to introduce her?
This is Lacey. She works at the admissions office, and I just really admire her. And when I got to know her story about why she's in the field she's in, I thought her perspective would be great for this. Do you want to go ahead and tell us?
And what I thought would be interesting is because most of the people that we have are people who are in recovery, and you are not in recovery, but you work with a ton of people who are beginning recovery, right?
Yes, yes.
Which is sort of an interesting way of looking at things. And first, Nicole asked you a really good question that we're going to get to, but what is it like? I mean, why would somebody, I guess this answers your question, why would somebody who's not in recovery work in recovery?
Yeah, I actually have a deep passion for recovery and working with people in all stages of the recovery process, and it stems back to my childhood. So in high school, I grew up with a mother addicted to crack, and that was rough. It was really, really rough being the oldest. I'm the oldest sibling. And on top of that, I was a young single mom, so I had a child at 16 years old, and I was out of the house at 16. But I was still having to go back home and, put groceries in the fridge for my little sisters and kind of just be the support for them when my mom was going through addiction, because she would sit in the room all day long. And it was really hard to experience, and I just remember constantly trying to kick the door down to get into my mother because, status unknown of what was going on in there. And there was so much anger and so much stress, and I just wasn't knowledgeable at that time about addiction either. So it was just like, this isn't our mom. Why are you doing this? My little sisters are at home, and I'm a single mom, young mom. I'm trying to make it, but I'm having to support 2 households right now because of your addiction. And luckily, she eventually went into rehab after, numerous times of us pushing and pushing and pushing. But even at my graduation in 2008, at 18 years old, she was still actively using. And you can see in my graduation picture, she's just blank. She's gone. She's not the mom that we were used to, growing up prior to the addiction. And that was the first part of really experiencing that type of lifestyle. And I think it started to plant the seed of my passion into addiction.
How long was she in addiction that you dealt with her?
At least all of my high school years. So I think at least 2.5 to 3 years, because it stemmed from around the time that I got pregnant, and it went beyond my graduation.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then there was lots of mental health during the same time with addiction. So she did attempt suicide twice that I had to clean up because I was the oldest and didn't want, my little sisters to experience any of that. So that was very traumatic at the time. Yeah. And I think I graduated, how many years is that? 2008 is 15 years ago. And then I got into a relationship 2 years later with this guy named Jeremy, and he had been clean. I met him right at the time that he started to get clean. So during our relationship, he never actively used, but it just so happened that he decided to relapse and passed away while we were together from an overdose. And so he was clean the whole entire time that we were together. And
How long was that?
a year.
Okay.
Yep. So we had actually met outside the jail, but he was there visiting someone else. I was there visiting someone else. I thought it was so unattractive at first. Like, not, what? No, I don't want to meet anyone outside of the jail, you know? But he actually ended up being super amazing. He was a super good dad. He had a daughter, and her mother was in active addiction the whole entire time we were together. So he had her the majority of the time. He was really good to my child. The night that he overdosed, he was actually watching my child, but I had just picked him up from his house. Because he had worked graveyards and he was tired and I worked. So I was like, I'm going to go shopping for a little while. Like, I'll see you in a little bit. And an hour later, he called me and he sounded like, now that I look back, I could tell that something was wrong, but I didn't pinpoint it at that time. But he told me, he was just like, I love you, right? And I was like, yeah, go to sleep. Like, what are you doing? Why are you calling me right now? You're supposed to be sleeping. And an hour later, I tried to call him, and his mother's child answered the phone, which was very, very, like, not like him. And she's like, he's dead. And I'm like, what?
Jeez.
What are you talking about? And I'm like, you're lying. Give his phone back, And we hang up, and I call his sister, and she's sobbing. And I just knew right then and there that it was game over. It was done with. And so I was in the store, and I dropped to my knees, and I was screaming.
Ooh.
Because I just, I didn't know what happened, I wasn't knowledgeable to how important continuing, a sober community and having your relapse plan in place and just really having people wrap their arms around you for being sober and continuing to keep those conversations going and awareness going. I didn't even know about Narcan back then. So it's and
well,
neither
it was
did
relatively
his family.
new back then.
Yeah.
So in
Yeah.
your mind, he quit and he's done.
Mm-hmm.
And he's okay.
Yeah, it never crossed the front of my mind again after that.
Yeah.
Because everything seemed so great. He was working, family loved him. He was such a great personality, such a great dad,
When
that
you look-
nothing seemed,
Wrong.
nothing seemed wrong.
When you look back now, do you think you can see the relapse? Where it started, or is that insensitive? Sorry.
No, not insensitive at all. I can't. I can't see, but I think if I would have been where I'm at right now, in my position, and just seeing hundreds of people come and go within Odyssey, I probably would have been, more, it would have been on the table. We would have been talking, what can we do to keep your sobriety? Let's have Narcan around. Let's train whoever is living with you around.
Right.
And so he is really where my passion stemmed from, is him. This is why I do what I do, so I can try to help as many people as I possibly can.
Was his opioid death?
Yep, it was heroin injection.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so the needle was right next to him when we found his body.
So you have had, without being addicted yourself, you've had, your mom. I'm curious, when you were talking about that, you talked to your mom occasionally and say, Mom, why are you doing? What did she tell you about why she was doing what she was doing?
She never had an explanation during her active addiction. It was just leave me alone. And we would almost get into physical fights because it was just I was so angry because that's not what we grew up with as a young child, and it's now what we're experiencing as teenagers. And so at the time, my little sister, she was 16 because she's 2 years younger than me. And then my little sister was 4.
Jeez.
Yeah, so.
And you're taking care of your own baby.
Yes, he was 6 months old. Yep, and I'm I'm a teenager. I'm court-ordered to be in a teen home because I did get into some trouble as a teenager before that. And from 16 to 18, I lived in a teen home, court-ordered. And then 18, I got out and got my own apartment. And so I still had about 6 months in school until I was graduated from high school. And so during that time of being out was when I really had to step in at home for my siblings.
Right. That's a lot of responsibility. Yeah. Your own baby, your siblings, and a crack-addicted mom.
Mm-hmm. I remember how I found out, too. I went to go lay on her bed, and I like put my arms into the pillow and I laid down and I smashed a glass pipe. And I was like, what was that? You know, and I pull it out and I'm like, this is weird. Like, this is the first introduction to drug paraphernalia. Like, so I'm explaining it to a couple friends. Hey, there's this metal spongy wire with this glass pipe. Like, what is my mom doing? And so then it came to light. And then just it trickled and trickled and trickled, where she was like leaving all the time, staying in the room all the time with the doors locked, having random people over. You know, my sister having to really try to worry about who was in the household.
Sure.
Yeah.
Boy,
It was a lot.
I mean, I'm stories like that. I would say I wouldn't have blamed you if you started using.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like the odds were stacked against me to end up in that type of lifestyle, you know. And
you just have no interest, never had
interest.
interest.
I never had an interest. I had more of an interest of helping the people who were in those type of situations. Because I've always been a people person. I've always wanted to help. I've always, like, you can call me on the drop of the dime and I'm there. It doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter what walk of life you're in. That's just how my personality is. And so when I've seen friends throughout the years struggle. Like, I had a friend complete Odyssey probably 7 years ago. And so that was when I kind of first got introduced to Odyssey as well, and kind of how they worked. And then I've seen friends, you know, come and go through addictions, whether it was alcohol or hard drugs. And like, I've always been exposed to it, and I've just never personally, but I've been in the mix of it all.
I don't know if you have any. You can share stories, regardless of HIPAA, just anecdotally about people that you run into. You're one of the first people that somebody sees coming into the Odyssey program or trying to get into the Odyssey program. What do you do, and what strange things have occurred while you've been here?
So I've been here for 9 months now.
Okay.
I was the first medical assistant in the permanent position within admissions.
Right.
And so I see everyone who's coming to residential, outpatient, youth, whatever, like,
Right.
I see them all. And only maybe a handful that I can count have been really difficult to deal with. The majority of them are super grateful, even when they're not feeling good, when they're withdrawing. You know, life has sucked so bad for them. They burned every bridge up to this point. They've been really kind in my office, and I think what I do is I just make it like, we're human. You're a human. I'm going to treat you how I would treat my loved one coming in to the program. I have my, you know, lighting dimmed down. I have some motivational things on the wall, and I really just
Soft
keep it real with it. Yeah. I had someone the other day, she's like, this doesn't even feel like a medical office. I'm like, that's the way I try to make it.
Are we doing yoga or meditation,
right?
or am I entering a treatment center?
Yeah. So I really just try to keep it like personable, and knowing that they have probably burned every bridge on the outside. And that there is hope, you know, there is opportunity for change, and change can be scary, because I get scared in change, you know. Even though I haven't been in addiction, I can relate. I've been in trouble with the law. I've grown up around addiction. I've dated someone who overdosed, you know, so I can relate to them in that way, just not the actual recovery part for myself.
I see with them like every day, and I'm always like, you're so happy all the time, and you treat them so well and with like compassion. Instances where I'm like, I am not okay with that person going out of sight in front of admissions. I am not okay with that, and you guys are just in there like, it's okay. We'll just test them again.
Yep.
It's okay. And I'm just like, I don't like that. They need to, if we say stay in sight, you have to stay, and you guys are like, it's okay. And I'm just like,
I mean, because I don't know what it was like for you, but when I went into treatment programs, I mean, you're really vulnerable right then. You're scared out of your mind because you don't know what to expect, or you do know what to expect because you've done it 3 times. But but it's a scary time.
yeah, and to come into like someone that just wants to talk to you, and she's just so easy to talk to, and they have to tell her things that are not great. Like, when was the last time you used? We need to know what you've used only for your safety. We don't care. And just the way she speaks is just amazing.
I love them all. I'm like, these are my kids. These are my people. You know, like if I do your intake, like I'm attached to you and I'm rooting for you all the way through. So I love to get like back out into the houses so I can see like who's still there. And every time I go to the houses, they're just like, Lacey. And it feels so good to see the success. And it hurts. It hurts when people leave or when they have
I was
their
going to ask you,
downfalls.
because when I first started working here and I'd do interviews with people or anything, I'd say, that person is really going to succeed.
Yes.
They're perfect for recovery. And then I'd hear 2 weeks later they're gone or they overdosed or something like that. And that's, how do you deal with that?
It's heartbreaking. Like
Yeah.
I really feel the emotions, and it honestly comes down to they're going to accept the help when they're ready for the help. And that's what I tell them all the time. I said, you have to want it for yourself. Like, I am here to give you a leg up. I'm here to emotionally, support you if you need some air to listen, or if you need help within the house. Like, I'm here for that, but you have to want that. But it hurts. Like, I feel the hurt, and I process it, and then I just have to move on and just keep, like, not giving up. I think it fuels my passion even more, because I'm just like, there are so many people out there who do want the help and who will succeed. I mean, look at half of Odyssey staff. Like, y'all are the
True.
ones who have continued to make it, and I think that helps me too, being around people who have gone through and our staff, because it keeps that motivation. Like, they do make it. They do make it. Like, just look around us, see how many people have actually made it.
Do you think you can honestly predict when you do an intake whether this person is going to make it or not?
No, not at all. Because there will be the people where, like you, for instance, said, like, oh, they're definitely going to make it. And they, have the struggles and they have the relapses, or they leave and we don't ever know what happens from
Right.
there. And then we have the ones who come in that are just, like, completely at rock bottom, that just don't seem like they'll make it. And they're the ones who nav out of the house.
I agree.
So it's really cool to see. I also actually worked at a methadone clinic in the past. That's kind of how I got introduced as well to, like, the community. And I mean, we had 400 plus clients a day. And there was one that we absolutely loved. Like, we loved him, and he was clean and he was clean and he was clean. And we're like, he's making it. Like, he is going to do it. We love him so much. And then he OD'd and passed away. And he had some good amount of sober time under his belt as well. And came in chipper every day and happy and conversated and, talked about his friends passing away. And then it was just like one day that was it. So there is no, like, fortune telling with recovery.
Yeah, I mean, addiction it's described as a lifelong complicated disease.
It is.
And unfortunately, I don't think anybody's really figured it out. I mean, they know what happens physically and mentally, but nobody's really able to say this person's going to succeed with a treatment program, or this person isn't, or this person's going to die of an overdose. I mean, it's so hard to figure out.
Yep.
Yeah, when we're in the house, we have clients that leave, and then you just get word that they passed, and you're just like, they left doing so well and had these great goals, and you just never really know how to. You get used to it, I guess, which is awful, but you never know how to take it.
Exactly. I think it just continues to just fuel, like, my passion, because I just want to help everyone. Like, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to take y'all, and we're going to do it, and we're going to get you through it.
How did you handle your boyfriend's death other than screaming in the store?
It was awful, and I still have a hard time processing it to this day, especially being in this field now. I sometimes often am like, what if I would have known what I know now? What if I would have had Narcan on me? Whereas I carry Narcan in my car all the time now. I have two Narcans in my car, and I'm not in that lifestyle anymore. I don't. My mom's sober. She's been sober for a very long time.
You don't really associate.
Yeah.
with people that do that.
I'm not in that life anymore like I was in the past, but I still carry it with me. So
I do too, because you never know when you're gonna drive by and see somebody passed out on the street. And because of our Good Samaritan law, you can go up and administer Narcan or naloxone, and even if they're not passed out from an overdose, it's not going to hurt them. It's not going to make them sick, and they can't sue you. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So I try to not beat myself up over it, but I'm human. It's hard, you know. We
Sure.
have those like, and I thought like, what if I wouldn't have left him that morning, you know?
Well,
What if I would have stayed there? Like, but then I'm thinking like, well, he would have used at some point anyways.
Right.
You know, if he was wanting to use, he would have used again. Whether it was that morning or later that day or the next day when we weren't together, or, you know, he would have eventually used.
You just you didn't have the knowledge you have now of,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Yeah.
I get that you keep going back, but you
Yeah.
know though, right?
Yeah.
That you did what you,
I wish I had the knowledge, though.
Yeah.
I wish I did.
and it's
That's
human
the part
nature to
that's the
say,
hardest.
what if? You know, and everybody does that.
Yeah.
Do you, you said your mom recovered. Do you have a relationship with her?
We are in a good spot right now. So it's taken a long time, a very long time. I had lots of anger, lots of resentment, lots of like, why? But now I get it. I get it now working where I'm working and who I've seen that you could love someone to the end of the world and the addiction doesn't care who you love. It's going to choose what it chooses, and that's not them choosing that, that's that disease choosing that. So I'm starting to heal from her, from the, you know, the trauma that we went through with that addiction. And I find, like, I got an apology, like, I'm sorry, if I could go back and change things, I would. And I think that was all it took for me to be like, thank you. And then I can now start processing things myself, like my own feelings, and just cutting her some slack, because it wasn't her, it was the addiction. But it's like that borderline is like between hating the addiction and loving the person. You know, like, where's that line at that a lot of people struggle with?
Do you ever ask her why?
She had a rough childhood.
Okay.
Yeah, she was adopted. She had 2 older brothers who were just awful to her most of the time. Very conservative family. She was just a rebel, you know, so she went through some situations that were really traumatic for her. And I think that eventually it just can catch up to you, and the way that you process it is different for everyone. And she went to the addiction, the drugs.
So you do have an understanding now. See, I mean, because
Yeah.
you might not have said that before.
Yeah, no.
You know.
No, I was mean, and I was mad, and I was like wanting to beat her up and fight her and kick in the door to get her out. But that wasn't, like, now I know that would not have been the way. Like, that wouldn't have, you know, I was always yelling, just go to treatment. Like, why are you not going to treatment? You know, like, we're dragging her out the house to get her to treatment. And it's just like, no, when it came down to it, she finally succeeded. And even after that, though, it was like, God, what are you addicted to now, Mom? You know, because, yeah, she got off the crack, but then she got addicted to alcohol. And so then that addiction caused some riffraff as adults.
Sure.
You know, I can remember a time on Christmas Eve when she was drinking some wine, and she got way drunk and like tried to physically fight me and kicked us out on Christmas Eve. And I'm, you know, I had 2 little kids at the time, and so it was just like one addiction after the next. But now she's in a really good place, and we're in a good place that we can start to rebuild things, because life is too short, and she could have not have made it.
what about
Like
your
a lot of other
sisters?
people.
Do you have a good relationship with them? Do they have a relationship with her?
Yeah, me and my younger sister, the one that's only 2 years younger, we actually joke about it. We're like, we should probably get some help, but we just laugh about our childhood trauma, you know,
Yeah.
what we went through. And the youngest one, she's now 19, so she's about to be 20. We don't really talk because she's like an only child. You know, she grew up, like, I was 18 and she's 4. So I'm like already out of the house by that
Sure.
time. So, and she got the best parts of my mom. You know, she got the sober mom, she got the stable mom, she got all that. So she lived a little bit of a different life than us. I mean, the first couple years of her life were rough,
She doesn't.
but she doesn't remember. Yeah, at that age, you don't really remember much.
It's amazing how addiction spreads out, has so many side effects or far-reaching effects to other family members. It's
Yeah.
not, because I always, you know, because when you're in your addiction, it's like, screw the rest of the world. I'm taking care of myself. And my attitude, and I think it's a lot of people who are in addiction, is if I'm hurting someone, I'm hurting myself. So don't bug me about it, you know?
Yeah, it's my liver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's also a big reason that addiction's there, is to numb the pain. You know, I'm sure she was trying to numb all the pain of stuff that she was now finally trying to process. And it was just too much to bear.
Well, then you're numbing the pain of the trauma you're causing people around you while you're trying to numb the pain of the other stuff.
And it just keeps going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I am really shocked that I never fell. Just like, DNA, you know, addiction's in my DNA.
Yeah.
Had an alcoholic grandpa, and then, you know, my mom and boyfriends and friends, and like all these situations I've been in, and I just never ended there. I ended on the opposite of wanting to help these
Well, you're
people.
channeling yourself in a really positive direction.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
I truly feel I'm where I belong. Like, I no longer wake up on Mondays and hate Mondays. Like, I love coming to work because it's like, who am I saving today? Who am I helping, like, plant that seed? You know, and it's so fulfilling. I'm like, I hate Fridays. I just want to be at work all day long.
how many different people do you see a day?
It just depends, but on average, probably 10.
So you're talking to 10 people who are coming in for treatment,
Yeah.
and each one has a different story. I mean, we're all
Yes.
so different if you think about it. You know, we still check the same thing. When's the last time you used that kind
Yeah.
of stuff? But
So many different stories, and I'm such a people person, and I'm nosy, so I love to hear everyone's story. Like, tell me more.
do they share readily
yeah.
with you? Well, you're
Yeah.
easy to share with. So,
Yeah. I think that's one of the things, is I just make it just comfortable by being myself, that they can open up, and I hold that empathetic space for them, I guess, you know, because oftentimes, and I look at this in my own life too, you know, when you have a family member who is just like not getting it together. Like, I have a teenage son who actually struggles with substance use as well. It's this teenage son that I had, you know, forever long
Your
ago.
6-month-old then?
Yep, he was 6 months old. Now he struggles with addiction too. And there's moments where I'm just like, I'm done with you. Like, I can't do this anymore. You know, and then I'm just like, no, we need to just hold that space of patience, boundaries. Boundaries is very important with him. And so it helps me hold space for others when they're coming in.
Sure.
And the family members too. When family members come in and they're just like, I can't fathom losing them. And I'm like, I know. Trust me.
And you can relate.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Like, loving an addict is the hardest thing that you will do on this planet, other than being in addiction yourself. And it's just because you don't know what to do or where to hold that space or boundaries. So in my personal life and at work, I'm able to create that space for them because I think of my own experiences.
We
Well,
are out of
there you
time.
go.
Thank you very much for what you do. If anybody is watching or listening, she's the first face that you get to, or maybe the second or third, but at admissions at Odyssey House, and we're so lucky to have you.
Thank
we
you.
really are, and you're an amazing person, going through what you went through and caring so much. So can I get your number so I can call you when I have problems? Sort of
Yeah.
treat you like mom.
Yeah,
Okay.
without a doubt.
See, thank you very much for sharing your story.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching or listening to another edition of Odyssey House Journals.